Good morning, all.
Welcome.
Today is June 27th and the last Sunday in June. And our talk today is Life is an Opportunity for Love. Now, I keep saying opportunity. You said
No.
something else. What did you say? Occasion.
Life
is an
is an
occasion
occasion for
for
love.
love.
And we'll define the difference later.
Okay. And so I'm going to begin with a reading. This is actually yesterday's reading from 365 by Ernest Holmes. And it's called Life Sings Through Me in Radiant Ecstasy. Now and always I recognize that I live, move, and have my being in God. I am part of the universal mind. I am one with universal substance. All the qualities and all the wealth of good and desirable things that exist in the universal mind are mine now. I perceive, accept, and experience them. I know that all the beauty of form around me is the garment of God. I know that the presence that manifests in my heart and mind is God expressing within that garment of form. As I feel this presence, more and more I hear the song of joy deep within me. Always, when I'm still, I hear the song of life pouring through my consciousness. I have only to listen, for it is always there. With this knowledge comes the assurance that loving presence is always here, closer to me than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. I have nothing to fear. I feel this loving embrace around me, and I know that it is not only a song of joy, but a song of love and protection. I tune out all the dull, negative ideas and tune in with the sunshine of life, with brightness and laughter, and with the joyous presence that is life itself. I now lay aside all anxiety, all striving, and let the law bring my good to me. I joyfully anticipate greater abundance, more success, more joy. Peace fills my heart and life sings through me in radiant ecstasy. And so it is.
Beautiful. Beautifully
If
written.
that doesn't make you feel better, nothing will.
And if it doesn't, just read it louder next time, and read it so loud that you can't hear any objection from
Really?
within.
Yeah.
The topic today, the life is an occasion for love, came to me as a result of the last 4 days we spent in Belize. And the reason for going to Belize was for a wedding. But what I realized once we were there and met the other 26 people, I think, that were there on the island with us, is that we were really there for an occasion of love. And the significance is that when you are someplace and the occasion is for love, the occasion is love, then a lot of the judgments that we normally have and a lot of the qualifying that we normally do is suspended, or at least remote enough that it isn't in the foreground where we're going to pay attention to it. And when I say that, and I don't know that any of you have ever had this happen, but have you ever gotten together with a group of people and within minutes you've already decided who you like and who you don't, who you want to spend time with, who you don't, who looks funny, who sounds funny, who seems odd or different or strange or doesn't seem to fit? And without even realizing it, you have a whole list of qualifiers that'll help determine whether you're going to spend time with or actually ever get past those qualifiers to meet the person that's in front of you. This being an occasion for love, an occasion of love, was really very, very different. And I thought, what would it be like if all of us participated in everything that we do as if life were a qualification, as if life were an occasion for love? And that's what gave me the idea for the talk. But in the process of that, I also had to look at myself and ask myself, how many times during the course of a day do I allow love to express as part of my nature? And how often do I have it on hold, waiting for the right time, the right place, the right space for it to be shared? And I have to say that, it didn't come up to 99%, probably less than 50%, because there's always the things that you have to worry about. and the things you have to give your attention to and the things you have to think about. And by the time you get done with all of that, wouldn't it be nice if love were one of the things that were in the equation? And it occurred to me too often it isn't. And so the message today is make love the occasion that it is for expression right here and right now. And everything else needs to stand behind that. Judith was talking to me about peace marches. And I remember as we talked about peace marches, when we used to go and fight for peace, you know, argue for peace, protest for peace. And I thought, isn't it interesting that all of the words we used having to do with peace that preceded peace had very little or nothing to do with peace, but also all of the words that we would have used, protest, fight for, argue for, stand for, were all of the subjects of the conversations the media had about the peace rallies. And rarely did they speak about peace, but neither did we actually.
Yes, I've got a quote by Ram Dass about things like that. He says, have you ever noticed how many angry people there are at peace rallies? Social action arouses righteousness. Righteousness ultimately starves your heart. If you want to be free more than you want to be right, you let go of righteousness. For social action to be done with love, the spiritual work comes first. If you oppose something or someone in anger, all you proliferate in the world is more anger. So that's from Ram Dass and from being Ram Dass. And I
Yeah.
thought it's so true. You know, when we think even with the social justice demonstrations recently, you know, we feel like we've got to get good and angry to get the gumption up to go out there and march and fight and whatnot. But we don't. It's an occasion for love. It's an occasion to come and express love and a
Right.
desire for justice and liberty for all.
It would have been interesting had the couple that you married, had they had to get angry to get up the energy to get married. You know, what they had to do was to be in the spirit of love. And what they wanted to do was to be in the spirit of love and have that spirit of love surround them and everyone that was there.
Which it did. It
Yeah.
was very contagious. But I wanted to talk about, because there were a lot of people there we didn't know.
Yes.
Some of the bride's family and friends that we didn't know, all ages. I mean, because her children are, you know, like 20, and their boyfriends, girlfriends were there. And so I noticed, as even especially with on the trip out on the boat and that second plane, there were people we didn't know, and we certainly weren't talking to them, because there is a certain thing about social appropriateness, you know. So I mean, if you just want to go up and give everybody a hug that you don't know, that's not appropriate. I think they would do a little pushback and go, who is this weird person, you know? So you can have love as an intention, but I think it's unrealistic to think that you just are going to go be expressing love and acting loving to strangers. Now, they did a wonderful job because we all sat at a great big long table. How many feet?
I don't
100
know.
feet long. It
Well,
was
enough to
huge.
seat 26 people,
Yeah, I thought there were 30, but
30, enough
nevertheless.
to seat somewhere between 26 and 30 people.
So, you know, you sit with who you know and who you're comfortable with for much of the time, and you get to know them better, and that's great. But they did a great job of making us rearranging people and having them sit with people they didn't know. And we had some of the greatest conversations with young people and old people and people we had never met before. And it was really delightful. We really it was enriching to get to know those new people.
But I think it was an occasion for love, which meant the
Yeah.
conversations were to discover what there was about these people that we didn't know that might be interesting or might we might have in common that we could share. So there was it was a real invitation, and I think that we often don't invite ourselves to the occasion of love, but we wait for
Mm.
it. We wait for it to come to us. Like, you know, nothing very nice has happened today to me. Well, what have you done to create that nice space for you to be able to operate out of? And I'm always struck with that when I'm in a hospital waiting room where I'm in some sort of a space where people are not gathered together because they want to be. They're waiting to get something done, and they're being held back. And I'm always impressed with how uncomfortable and oppressive that can feel until I change it by saying something to somebody. And before long, there's an entire conversation going on between multiple people that wouldn't necessarily go on. In fact, it wouldn't go on unless somebody said, let's not just have this be a space for waiting. And I think we need to stop waiting for love to come to us. We need to stop waiting
We
for
need to be
enough
the
love.
bringers of
Yeah,
love.
enough love to be so, or to feel safe enough to love. What's true is it's not safe not to love.
That's true.
Yeah, what's really safest is for you to love, and love first, and love long, and love always. And the other side of that, and I don't know if this is true for any of you, but I need to practice. I've been around for a few years, but I've never gotten that good at being a person who can bring love to every occasion. And the more I practice, the better it gets. And you can get out of practice. This last year has been a year where I think a lot of people have gotten out of practice when it comes to being able to connect with other people. Everybody greets you with a mask on and looks at you as if you could have a disease. And we're just beginning to get over that. We're going to have to relearn to connect with love.
I had another quote that I wanted to share.
Judith is famous for quotes, and I love it. She finds the best quotes.
Let me see. Where is it? Ah, yes. Here it is. This is from Joel Goldsmith. Joel Goldsmith was originally a Christian Science practitioner who became a fantastic healer and healed people through letters all over the world. I mean, they would write him letters requesting healing work, and he did it from Hawaii, where he ended up living. But he says the enlightenment that sets us free consists first of all in knowing that there is a divine power equally present in every individual, regardless of their nationality, race, or religion, regardless of whether they live in freedom or slavery, whether they are in prison or out, in a hospital or out. Within each one of us, there is this potential, the spiritual impulse, the kingdom, this presence and power, which the Master revealed would set us free. So when we recognize that this presence exists in everyone, that means the love is there too. There's another saying that we say, which is that nobody overcomes their childhood. Is that the saying? Nobody really overcomes their childhood, which means that the kids who were mean and pulled pranks on you and called you names and made fun of you caused us to fear other people and strangers. If they weren't our good friends or our family, and sometimes you couldn't even trust your family. So who can you learn to trust enough to be loving or love to? So I think that's what we deal with every time we meet strangers. Every time we're around strangers, we're not quite sure who they are, if they would like us, if they would hurt us. And we need to really go back to that quote that I just read from Joel Goldsmith, and the presence is in them too.
Right.
And they are eager and waiting for you to express love to them so they can express it back to you.
Well, I love the kingdom is within. And what
Yeah.
we need to be willing to do is to open the door to the kingdom. And opening the door to the kingdom, really the key to that is opening the door with love. When we say yes to love in any way, we open the door to the kingdom of greatness and of good that is within us. The other thing that Joel Goldsmith is talking about, which I really like, is that kingdom is full of healing. That kingdom is full of possibility. That kingdom has in it things that have not yet occurred, that can occur, that are beyond the imagination. And I think that's important. I think we need to be willing to live into the imagination of possibility that exceeds what we normally say yes to. We need to know that when we meet somebody with love, that the world, an entire universe is open to us. And we need to treat it as a period of discovery. If you've ever fallen in love and you've met your lover on the day 2 of that relationship, and you've said, there's a whole new world in front of me that I've never seen before, and I can't wait to learn more about it. If we could treat each person as a lover, we could treat each person as a new love, and realize that within them there is a kingdom as there is within us, we could expand our kingdom. We could become more than we are. We could actually become who we are. We won't become more than we are. We'll just become more aware of who it is we are truly. And truly, we do have the kingdom within. We do draw from that.
I want to share a little bit more about Joel Goldsmith. Uh, he had a newbie learning from him whose name was Walter Starkey
Oh, yeah.
when he was in Hawaii. Walter Starkey was a spiritual student, and he was learning how Joel Goldsmith did these fabulous healings for people all over the world. They just write letters. And as a matter of fact, I think he sorted the mail and he saw how many requests there are. And he knew how to do this kind of spiritual mind treatment that Joel Goldsmith was using and that we teach and we use. And he said, Joel, you can't possibly do spiritual mind treatment for all of these people every day. And he said, oh, yes, I can. I go, and when I go to the Christ consciousness, they are there with me. And of course, Walter could not disagree with that because in the Christ consciousness, we're all one.
Yeah.
They could not be separated from him, nor all he has to know is know truth and know love and know wholeness. And that holds for everyone who's made the request from. So I thought it was a great answer.
So I don't know how we choose the life we choose. I don't have the details for, or the schematic or the diagram for how I've chosen to live the life I'm living, and what diseases I will and won't have, and how long I'll have them, and whether I will die from them or whether I'll heal from them. I don't see that. I know it's there, but I don't see that. But all of that exists in this larger consciousness. All of this lives in the Christ consciousness. And so it's reasonable for us and reasonable for you to call or connect with us or send us a letter or whatever and say, please do your healing work for us, for me, and do that healing work for me, knowing that the Christ consciousness in me, working through me, is me and can do anything. And that is so important because I think just like we were talking about love, life is an occasion for love. Life is also an occasion for healing at every level. And there is no disease, there is no condition, there is no anything that's permanent. And so that means that conditions can be changed. And if we all choose together to look at a condition and ask the question, does this need to be and can it be healed? And say yes to the healing, all kinds of healing is possible. The most notable thing about Joel Goldsmith and a number of other healers I've read about is that there's no way to explain what they do, but there's also no way to say that it doesn't happen.
That's true. And I'd like to go back to this idea that life is an occasion for love because the love of the creator is always present,
Yeah.
always there. So love is always there if you can allow yourself to feel it. If you can learn to go to that presence in mind, you go by closing your eyes and having the intention to go to the Christ consciousness, to go to the love of God. And you feel it as the reading that I shared in the beginning. You can feel the love and support of God and life for you and your loved ones if you can let it in. But if you don't know it's there, you don't know you can go there and let it in. So that's why we teach meditation, because when you go into the quiet, when you go into the stillness, you allow yourself to be supported and lifted up by the love of the creator for all creation. It is an occasion of love
Yeah.
for the divine, for God.
I met a sparrow the other day when I was out for my walk, and we spent some time together. And I asked him, I said, don't you ever worry about there not being enough food? You don't have a refrigerator, you don't have a kitchen, you don't have any place to prepare it. And he said to me, there'll always be enough. And I looked and I watched, and he flew and he roosted where he wanted to roost and seemed to spend time doing what he wanted to do. And then he would go back and nibble here or nibble there. And so you have to ask yourself, isn't there enough? And if
Mhm,
there is enough, then why are we always proceeding in life as if there isn't enough? And
mhm.
and in that acting that there isn't enough, unfortunately, affirming that there isn't enough.
Right.
I think, and I mention this because lately there's been a number of people that we have been close to that have fallen ill to some pretty serious conditions. And the conditions are serious, but they're conditions. And it's really important for us not to believe in a diagnosis and not to believe in an outcome. What's really important is we don't diagnose ourselves with hopelessness or helplessness, that we diagnose ourselves with possibility, with healing, and with creativity. And even if at the end of the day, none of what I'm saying turns out to be as great or as wonderful as you would like for it to be, it won't have been a loss to have tried and to experienced and to have experimented with it. I would always rather experiment with hope than I would with hopelessness. And at the end of the day, if my hope isn't realized like I'd like it to, I will have had a better day than to have realized hopelessness.
And, Course in Miracles says that there are only two emotions, love and fear. And when you realize that anytime you're not feeling love, you're in fear of something, fear of not enoughness,
Yeah.
fear of not enough love, whatever. The leader of the country, I think it's Myanmar now, used to be Burma, I think. But at any rate, her name is Aung San Suu. You've heard of her, no doubt. And her quote is this. She says, "The only real prison is fear, and the only real freedom is freedom from fear." And I think that is just so true, so true. Because no matter what the condition, if you're free from fear,
One of
that's
the
freedom.
one of the most interesting things about the research that's been done in the near-death experience, if you look at the people that have survived having died and come back, is they don't not die, but they no longer have a fear of it.
Nope,
And when they
it's no
talk
longer
about
fear.
not being afraid of death any longer, they talk about living a different kind of life. And so I think that a lot of our fears intrude much more than we'd like to realize into our daily living. And the more we can affirm love, the more we can have life be an occasion for love, the more likely we are to experience the richness of the day, the fullness of the day, and the fullness of our own spirit.
And laugh,
A lot.
laugh a lot. So, shall we close with a affirmative prayer?
No, let's just wander around a little bit longer. No.
Okay. Okay, let's come together in our knowing and know that there is one life, one mind, one universal love that we call the Creator, the Father, Mother, God, that that lover of all life that is always present. And it is present for us to feel in our hearts and our minds. We know that as we acknowledge this, we allow ourselves to feel loved, protected, safe, and able to radiate that love forward to all others that we encounter. So we give thanks. We give thanks for being free of fear, for expecting the best, uh, even acknowledging that death is just a door that we walk through for ourselves and our loved ones. There is nothing to fear there. We let it be. We let it be a renewal into a new life experience. So we give thanks for all the love we've received. We give thanks for all the love we've shared, we have, and we choose to make life an occasion for love.
And so it is.
And so it is.
For those of you that are visiting us for the very first time, you need to know that we'll be continue on after we're finished here live. We're going to be continuing
conversation.
but we're also going to do, we have a piece of music we're going to be offering. We'd like to have you listen to, and then we're going to have an offering. For those of you that didn't know that we are a not-for-profit Center for Spiritual Living organization, you can go to our website, CSL Palm
I'm going to
Beaches.
show it in just a moment.
Right.
Oh, but do you want it on the
No,
recording?
that's okay. Yeah, I want this part on the recording.
On the recording, okay. Then
Right.
then you go to our website, which is CSL, which stands for Center for Spiritual Living, cslpalmbeaches.org. And
Okay.
there's a donate button.
Right. So donate if you would like to, and don't if you don't. So we're going to end the recording now.